My name is Jameson Barnett. I'm president and co-founder of Verilogue. I just want to thank everyone for taking their time out of Friday to meet with us to go through our newest tool. For the past 20 years, Verilogue has been on a mission to capture authentic exam room conversations and turn them into insights that fuel solutions that transform healthcare communication. And today, I'm really excited to share with you all our newest innovation, Reveal Vision. Vision takes our mission to the next level by using AI to scale dialogue insights for brand marketers and market researchers like yourselves. And so this really is the first time we're sharing it out on the broader public. Um, this tool is making everyone anxious as well because as I've sat through demos from other vendors, other tools, I've seen a lot of Figma. I've seen a lot of screenshots. I've seen a lot of click and play. So we're testing technology today on Friday, making everyone nervous, and we're doing a live demo. But before we jump into everything about the demo, I do want to kick off the process. I was happy to be a part of a presentation about a month and a half ago where the lead speaker, who was from a large AI organization, had indicated that their tool was condensing 20 minutes of complex operations into 1 minute. So everybody in this world thinks everything happens real fast. And even one of these leading technologies was saying 20 minutes of complex work was 1 minute. And maybe in that past month and a half, where they've shortened the time even more, as I'm sure we will with technology. But instantaneous insights aren't coming just right yet because of the complex work we're asking the AI tool to do. So to begin this presentation, I'm going to kick it off the demo, and then we'll get back into the tool in the later stages. So before we begin, and I think everybody's used to the chat there with the ones and their location, I have a question for you all. If you could sit down with 50 patients and 50 doctors right after an exam room conversation where they discussed weight loss, what would you ask them? So I'm going to give a few seconds to chime into the chat here of what you would ask them, and Gary's going to help me out as our questions coming in. All right, so what I'm going to switch over to is our Reveal MR platform. This is Verilogue's platform for sharing dialogues and dialogue insights. I'll give a more thorough review of it towards the end of the conversation here. But here's where I'm really pushing on the technology. Everybody advised me against doing this, but I'm like, you know what? Our team's ready for it. All right, so what is the question that we want to ask? Gary, which one do?
Allow me to combine some of these questions and tailor it into a research question for you.
But while you're picking that up, what we're going to ask that question of. So Verilogue captures conversations between doctors and patients in the exam room. And so what I've set up here is a project where 50 of those conversations live. And so these are real conversations about obesity or weight management across a wide variety of specialties. And we're going to use our vision tool or our AI tool to ask a question of those 50 conversations. Now I wasn't totally crazy. I have a few pre-canned that we can get through here if it doesn't come back. But we're going to put this in live and kick it off and then talk about our tool and come back and see where we're at. So what was the question, Gary?
A combination of the questions that were asked. What factors influenced how physicians discuss treatment options with patients?
And so again, I mean, this is a complex question. It's not straightforward. It's not just how many times was a brand mentioned or how many times a word was then said or how many times two words were said next to each other. It's pretty in depth. And this would take a researcher at Verilogue a considerable amount of time to go through those 50 conversations, averaging around 10 minutes per conversation, um, to to investigate those things. So I'm going to kick it off now. And as you can see, we have kind of an agentic AI where it's going to go through all the conversations, examine them, summarize them, and present back results as well as a validation check. And I'll get into those steps as they get through, but we're going to leave that go now. We're going to come back to the presentation. Yeah, a little jumping around there, but when to kick off that process, now we're kind of taking a step back. So who is Verilogue? Verilogue has been a point of care expert since 2006. We focus on capturing that authentic conversation within the exam room between a patient and a healthcare provider. These conversations are unscripted and naturally occurring. And we capture those real conversations using a non-intrusive digital observational methodology. That was a tongue twister. From there, we load up those conversations into a database to where we can provide context. So we have the world's largest physician-patient dialogue research database. And with that database, we can provide comprehensive conversational models and provide that linguistic expertise that brings clarity to those complex conversations that we capture. And then lastly, through our Reveal market research platform, the platform that we just saw, and our AI-powered tool, which we call Vision, you can access those conversations and those insights firsthand and turn them into actionable strategies for your brand. So at Verilogue, we've been in the industry since 2006, working with the top 50 pharma blockbuster drugs over the past 5 years. Basically, every pharmaceutical blockbuster drug has worked with Verilogue. Over the years, we've worked with over 300 pharmaceutical brands, examining over 250,000 healthcare conversations from around the world, which compiles into about 1,000 healthcare provider and patient studies. How people use our insights. They use it for customer and brand strategy, to market research, creative development, launch monitoring, building education and patient support programs. We really are out there to help pharmaceutical brands connect, communicate, and make an impact through those healthcare conversations. And now, since I started Verilogue roughly 20 years ago, been very fortunate to have the opportunity to listen to tens of thousands of conversations, to listen to those moments within the exam room. And through that experience, I've learned something really powerful. The patients share more than symptoms. They also reveal their doubt, their fear, and the unmet needs within the therapeutic category. And what's really amazing to me year after year is just how raw and authentic and deeply human these conversations are. And so I did want to share a clip with you. This clip's about 1 minute and 10 seconds long. And it's a patient talking about weight management with a physician. Before I started off, this clip has been altered to de-identify the audio, but you still can hear the natural conversation occurring between the provider and the patient. So let me click this here.
Okay. Because I know that my labor doctor, she sent out a letter to the insurance company trying to get the Ozempic and all, or the Trulicity
Right.
too, and even with that, they wouldn't do it. So,
They just don't care.
yeah, I just feel like
Okay.
I want to make sure I'm not doing damage by only eating once a day too, as well. Because I feel like there are days that it's like, okay, maybe I should eat a little bit more than other days.
Yeah.
But yeah, when it's not working, I feel like I have to do something.
Right.
And I've tried everything possible as far as I can do for right now because I can't like join a gym or any of that because I live with my parents who they're immunocompromised. So I can't expose them. But as soon as I can move, which has been in the works, I am gonna have a gym at the place that I'm moving to. They're gonna have it where they can do special hours for certain people if they have to, based off of their work schedules. So it's been really nice to get to know about that. And so I kind of picked that place on purpose because they're more flexible.
So there we go. I really wish we were all in a room together so we could discuss some of the words and phrases and some of the fears and challenges that she presented. Um, I think just some words that stuck out to me were damaging, and just the emotion that went in it. And I think the other really interesting thing for me is, again, over the 20 years of doing this, I don't know if you noticed, but that clicking that was in the background. That's one thing that's definitely changed at the point of care. That's the physician going through their AHR record. And I don't blame them or criticize them. It's something it's a requirement of the job now. But it's definitely been intrusive into that really, that conversation that's so critical between a physician and a patient and something that's come in between them. And you can kind of hear the physician trying to navigate through that while talking with that patient. And so that's just one example. And I think it's a really powerful example, a powerful N of one. And I just want you to think about what would the impact be when that single voice could become 1,000. And so that's what Reveal Vision is allowing us to do. It's really taking the depth of that one conversation and scaling it. So it's turning those individual stories that we're capturing within the exam room into patterns and turning them into actionable insights that ultimately transform your brand strategy. So for marketing and market research professionals like yourselves, those on the phone, who are looking to support and improve healthcare, I mean, the exam room is a gold mine of insights. It's a chance to understand what truly drives decisions, emotions, and trust within both healthcare and the medicines the patients take. And so when we can capture and scale these moments, we unlock the ability to design experiences, design interventions that really resonate at every touch point throughout the healthcare journey. Now, the one thing I've learned also through the past 20 years is that conversations can be really messy. Um, Thinking about all the conversations that we've captured, all the that we've performed, so many different topics, so many different paths, so unique, so many different unique tales to be told. I think you just can't take a same structured approach as you would if you had some nice quantitative data lined up in rows and columns. I mean, what we find is that conversations are full of overlapping ideas, fragmented thoughts, unexpected turns. You find words like good and months, wait, bank, or even the word cause. They pop up in ways that you don't always follow like a nice, neat pattern. It's just as language, if we understand what's going on between two individuals, it's great communication. But it could be unpredictable and it's nuanced. And as I mentioned earlier, it's deeply human. And so that's why here at Verilogue, we've always employed linguists to give structure to that mess. That's been our secret sauce. Understanding the messiness in these conversations is what makes Verilogue tick. And what's make the work of our linguistics researchers so powerful, and it makes the insights they pull from those conversations so valuable. And now, over the past few years, maybe you've heard, there's been a new technology that's come out. Something big has happened. AI arrived with a lot of promise. We found that tools like ChatGPT captured this global attention. They sparked headlines about their potential to transform how we work and how we communicate. And for Verilogue, AI offered something we long hoped for. It offered the ability to standardize and accelerate the analysis of those messy conversations. This just wasn't a technological leap for us. It was a shift in how we imagine the future of insights derived from conversations. But we also have had the experience of the past 20 years of a lot of new breakthroughs in technology. The one that's close and dear to my heart is automated speech recognition. This is something I've talked about before, I've given presentations for, and actually about 2 months ago was in a presentation where they shared a chart that spoke to my whole story, and I've stole that chart, I'll show you in a second. But throughout the years, we've always had, why don't you use automated speech recognition? It'll accurately hear everything and be able to summarize. And what we found, it just was never that accurate. The chart that was shared during this conference presentation was a chart around how fast AI has scaled to match human performance. And so the focus of the conversation and in that conference was on the right-hand side here. The idea that language understanding and common sense completion and grade school math were quickly solved by AI, getting to the point where it's matching human performance. The part that I caught and was really interested in was this green line here. This green line is the automated speech recognition. And so again, Verilogue launched around 2006. And at that time, the benchmarks were around 20% accurate. And we always heard over time, you should use ASR, use ASR. We tried every technique. And even up until 2015, 2016, that technology still wasn't matching human performance. And now it's reached there in recent years, and we do leverage it more now. But just to be through how long this tail was to get that performance to how quickly AI was able to get that performance was truly outstanding. And it was great to see this graph. There's been other technologies that's come about. Data lakes was one that we heard. Just throw all the data in there, take it out of the box. It's just going to work immediately. Machine learning, you're just going to get instant insights. Again, overlay it, put it on the top of your data. You'll have instant insights. What we found with all these technologies is that they just didn't work out of the box. It's really the value came only in investment after you made an investment in the setup, the integration, and the training of those models. So when AI came about, we took an approach where it's not just plug and play, it's plug and prepare. That we need to make an investment in the foundation, but that investment would have a huge payoff. And so with AI, the success really came through the setup, the integration, and the preparation. And I think having that team of linguists that we had, we kind of turned those linguistic researchers and the linguistic engineers to fine tune and prepare our AI tool. So how do we unlock the value of AI and thinking about this linguistic engineering? I mean, at the simplest form, it's taking our 50 years of linguistic expertise and applying it to the prompts that we're supplying to the tool. And some simple examples of that, if you had some questions like, how is weight loss treatment discussed? That's a way I would phrase it. But what we found is if you just made slight shifts in the language and in the prompts, something like, what do doctors tell patients about weight loss treatment? You're going to find results that are more accurate and more actionable, and they're marketing ready insights that can help drive your strategy and impact. And again, another little example of this nuance, we just asked that what topics are discussed during the weight loss visits. You're going to get a wide variety of answers, and they may not be applicable to what you're really searching for. But if you give it the specificity of saying what topics do HCPs and patients discuss during weight loss visits, the results are much more accurate and much more actionable. So what we found as we were working with our AI tools, the large language models, and the conversational data we had, is that the real value of a linguistically engineered prompt is that it provides precision and it provides cultural nuance and clarity that generic prompts cannot. By applying that deep expertise that our linguists had in syntax, semantics, pragmatics, it allowed us to maximize the AI accuracy, embed contextual intelligence, and improve the efficiency of the overall prompts. And at the end of the day, what it really means to the end user is that you're going to make sure that you're getting back accurate, strategic, and actionable market-ready insights. And so that is how we turn 1,000 messy conversations into meaningful impact for your brand. We're going to go pop back into the demo to see where it's at and talk about what the tool is actually doing. So again, still working here. I have one that's in process. Oh, excuse me. To kind of take you through what the steps are doing. So first, we're kind of looking at the prompt that's been asked of the system, right? And starting to prepare the data and bring it together. And then we're going through each one of the dialogues one by one and gathering notes from each of those dialogues. Once we have notes from each one of those 50 conversations that we had in the sample, we then take a look at all the notes and generate them into themes. And so we're seeing the key themes that carry throughout all those 50 conversations, and then ultimately turn them into a key takeaway that is basically the response for your question. Then it goes back and it starts to associate that evidence that we found within the transcript to those themes. And so it's really important for us, again, that accuracy and making sure that it doesn't have hallucinations. A keyword that came out when AI became available in these long language models, but I think has kind of fallen off the radar lately. But we're going back and finding the actual clips within the conversations that allow us to support those takeaways and the themes and the notes that the AI generated. Then lastly, there is a last step that we do that goes back and validates all the work. So we have a further agent taking a look at all the information, all the rich evidence that the AI initially found in those first 5 steps, and validating and making sure the accuracy of it. And again, this is why the results haven't been come back yet. We'll see how far they're churning, but more than welcome to come back after this demonstration. We'll take you through the results that we had returned. I did ask it a question prior to us having this webinar, just so you can see what some of the results look like. So what we have here is the question was, how do patients and doctors conceptualize obesity? And again, I think the key word here is using the word conceptualize, and pushing the system to come back with results that are meaningful to us, that are actionable, versus being able to just come back and say, here's the different things they talked about when they talked about obesity. So here's the key takeaway. They talk about doctors primarily conceptualizing obesity as a medical condition requiring pharmaceutical intervention and quantifiable monitoring, while the patients tend to frame it as a personal struggle influenced by psychological factors and life circumstances. They're both increasingly accept a medicalized approach that positions obesity as a chronic condition interconnected with other health issues. So in that 1:10 clip that I played you, you kind of heard some of this takeaway play out there, as the patients were talking about their life conditions, and the impact that those conditions or factors had on their ability to control their weight and actually go down a path with a treatment program. Now, it further breaks it down into different themes. So here we see the chronic disease versus a temporary state, the medical versus the personal framing. Obesity is an interconnected condition with other conditions. So pharmaceutical intervention for behavioral approaches, the psychological dimensions of obesity, and then again, the systematic barriers to obesity treatment. So again, from all this one question, we're getting all this rich layers of information that fed into that key takeaway. And we can dive into any one of these. I always like to look at the systematic barriers one here. Scroll down here, because it seems that's the most popular topic in the news these days, about the cost of these medications as well as the coverage of these medications. So here we're talking about, obesity treatments being constrained by insurance coverage, healthcare system barriers. They go through the different insurance denials, prior authorizations, and coverage limitations for weight medications. And now for us, it just wasn't good enough just to give that little summary there. We also wanted to be able to give the ability to drill down into the actual transcript and actual evidence that supported that note, that takeaway, and that theme. So here is the note that the AI had generated. And if you dig down even further, you get to see the actual text from that transcript, that the AI tool highlighted. And now what you're seeing here too is these support themes. This is that last validation step, going through and checking, doing a second check in terms of the information the AI tool pulled out. Again, ensuring that accuracy of the findings and the ability to see, what it considered in terms of support of the theme. And now here's one again where it says maybe, and it gives the opportunity for you to read through and ensure that note accurately summarizes what was being discussed in the conversation. All right, so let's see where our initial one was at. Again, 20 minutes. We're still retrieving the processing status. We'll see if that updates a little bit. But I said, I was getting risky. I didn't want any Figma. I didn't want any click-throughs. I wanted an actual demo of the tool. And like I said, we can follow up later on with actual results for those that are on this presentation. So I'm just going to leave you with this. I think, again, we didn't just see this as a advancement in technology. We see it as a different way of inserting insights, and developing insights and leveraging these healthcare conversations for our brands. We see a plethora of opportunities that would have been constrained in terms of the sample size and human effort that it would take to review all those conversations. And so this tool allows us to go beyond our initial thinking of how conversations could be applied and examined, and think about new ways and new avenues of leveraging conversations to help support your brands, in the therapeutic categories.